Now, a big story on WION. Foreign ministers of the SCO are meeting in Goa to discuss regional security matters, including adding Iran and Belarus to the grouping. Amid fractured East-West relations, India, which holds the chair of both the G20 major economies and the SCO, this year is treading a diplomatic tightrope. The Shanghai Cooperation Organisation is an intergovernmental organization founded in Shanghai on 15th of June back in 2001. The theme of India's 2023 chairmanship is Secure SCO. India attaches special importance to SCO in promoting multilateral political, security, economic and people-to-people interactions in the region. SCO pursues its policies based on the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity of nations and non-interference in internal affairs. Pakistan's foreign minister is attending the SCO meeting. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is the first Pakistani foreign minister to visit India since 2011. New Delhi has consistently stressed the need for Pakistan to take credible, irreversible and verifiable action to end cross-border terrorism against India. New Delhi expects Islamabad to fulfill assurances given at the highest level in 2004 and reiterated several times that the territory under its control will not be allowed to be used for terrorism. Now, India has urged Pakistan to review its unilateral action so that normal channels of diplomatic communications are preserved. However, instead of vowing to act against terror, the Pakistani foreign minister said, and I'm quoting here, "Let's not get up caught in weaponizing terrorism for diplomatic point scoring." Here's what the Indian foreign minister had to say.
There can be no justification for terrorism, and it must be stopped in all its forms and manifestations, including cross-border terrorism.
Sergei Lavrov's visit is the third high-level visit from Russia in the last 3 weeks. Remember, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov and Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu visited New Delhi just recently. The Indian Foreign Minister and his Russian counterpart held bilateral talks yesterday. Russian Foreign Minister said that a trust-based exchange of views took place. Now, India has long-standing ties with Russia and has so far chose to not condemn the Russia's invasion. However, last year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi told Putin categorically that it is not the time for war. Ties between India and China have seen a steep fall since the 2020 clash in Ladakh's Galwan Valley. Wang Yi, now China's top diplomat, visited New Delhi just last year and met Indian counterpart Dr. S. Jaishankar. And in March then, China's new foreign minister, Qin Gang, attended the G20 meeting in New Delhi. S. Jaishankar held bilateral talks with Qin Gang yesterday. The Indian minister said that focus remains on resolving outstanding issues and ensuring peace and tranquility on the border areas. Now, since its inception, the SCO has mainly focused on regional security issues and the fight against terrorism, separatism and extremism. Priorities of the grouping also include regional development. The SCO has been an observer in the UN General Assembly since 2005. Back in 2010, the UN and SCO Secretariats signed a joint declaration on cooperation. Then in April of 2010, the UN and SCO Secretariats signed a joint declaration. Now, for more on this developing story, we are being joined live from Goa by our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibul. And also with us is our Pakistan Bureau Chief, Anas Malik from Islamabad. Welcome to the broadcast, both of you. Siddhant, let's begin with you. Dr. S. Jaishankar said, and I'm quoting here, "Terrorism is a menace and must be stopped in all forms." We have seen India talking about cross-border terrorism often at the SCO stage. What was different in the Indian Foreign Minister's speech today, and how optimistic are you about any change on the ground?
Well, there were several aspects of the Indian External Affairs Minister's speech today. He is the host of the SCO Foreign Ministers and clearly sent a message on several issues. On cross-border terrorism, that's a clear message to Islamabad. We know that when it comes to cross-border terrorism, India has been in the past talking about Pakistan's role when it comes to terror activities in India and in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And India has said until Pakistan is seen taking action against terrorism, talks can't happen. And this time around as well, there were no talks between the Indian and the Pakistani side. No structured talks, no police side. Of course, there were reports of a handshake which happened at the dinner yesterday. But that is part of the protocol. The Indian External Affairs Minister shook hands with all of his counterparts. Today we saw the Indian External Affairs Minister doing a namaste to all ministers, including the Pakistani side. But the focus from the Indian side was also to form consensus on issues. As the Indian External Affairs Minister pointed out, the situation in Afghanistan, the modernization of the grouping, that includes expansion of the grouping. Remember, under the Indian presidency of the grouping, Iran and Belarus will become full-fledged members of this mega grouping, but also on the COVID crisis, on connectivity as well. On connectivity, specifically, there was a message that was sent to China, of course not taking names, saying that connectivity should respect sovereignty of countries. That's a message primarily because of China's CPEC, that's China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, passes through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So a lot of developments, and whatever happens here at the SCO Foreign Ministers meet feeds into the summit in Delhi.
Right. Anna, speaking on what Siddhant said earlier, Jaishankar did not name Pakistan, of course, but the India-Pakistan cross-border tensions are out in the open. How is Bilawal Bhutto Zardari reacting to this?
Well, Bilawal did respond to S. Jaishankar's comments without naming him directly. First saying that terrorism should not be weaponized as a resort for point scoring in diplomacy. That's what he said without naming Dr. Jaishankar. With that, he also emphasized on the point that how he himself is a personal victim of terrorism, and that how state actors and non-state actors need to be segregated, and that the terrorism should be condemned in all of its forms and manifestations, even if it's, quote, state-sponsored terrorism. That's what Bilawal's speech was at the SCO, where he was giving it more of a personal touch. With that, his speech focused on the issues at hand in Afghanistan, on poverty alleviation, on climate change, and on the health crisis in reference of the COVID-19 pandemic. Largely, he did respond to S. Jaishankar, the Indian counterpart's comments, but of course, as we know, that the SCO charter clearly lays out that you can't really push bilateral issues. Therefore, without using the K word, he said that unilateral actions should be condemned, and that the international law and United Nations Security Council resolutions should be abided by. Largely speaking, Bilawal tried to give his speech in the form that he's keen on engaging, and that he would want to move forward in the direction irrespective of whatever the bilateral relations would be between Pakistan and India.
Right. Siddhant, the SCO is a 8-member group with countries that don't always see eye to eye. But in the wake of Asia emerging as a powerhouse, can we expect a joint declaration after today's meeting?
Well, as per the SCO protocol, there is no joint declaration which usually is released after ministerial meeting. But we do expect a Delhi declaration that will be released after the summit that happens in July. The summit happens on 3rd and 4th of July. And for that, India is trying its best to form consensus on global issues from counter-terrorism to connectivity. And focus remains for New Delhi to make sure that all countries are on the table in terms of the shared problems the region faces, from radicalization to terrorism. But essentially, as the world changes, as a new geopolitical order arises. We know that SCO and groupings like BRICS play an important part. Both groupings are looking towards a major expansion. And as the chair of this particular grouping, the SCO grouping, India wants to be remembered as a country that played a constructive role in terms of the group's engagement, from expansion or modernization to making sure the consensus is formed. So that is why this year's meeting is important, and the Delhi Declaration will be closely awaited when the summit happens in approximately a few months' time.
Absolutely. Anas, now quickly, just after the SCO meeting, the Pakistani and Chinese foreign ministers are heading to Islamabad for a trilateral meeting with Afghanistan. Now, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has been mentioning the CPEC quite often, as Siddhant also pointed out. What can you tell us about that? Because even though Kabul is not part of the SCO, there are issues that could impact the entire region.
Well, if I got your question correctly, because there seems to be some audio issues, if I got your questions correctly, largely speaking, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's speech had quite a lot of underlining mentions of China, not just in the context of the China-Pakistan economic corridor, but largely speaking in terms of Pakistan-China cooperation as well. And you rightly mentioned that Chingang, he is heading to Islamabad. In a very short while from now, in probably some hours from now, we'll be seeing him landing here in Islamabad, where he is due to hold a bilateral meeting and then a trilateral interaction between Pakistan, Afghanistan and the Chinese foreign minister under the existing trilateral mechanism. Now, while Pakistan's pitch at the SCO has been echoing that of what has been said by Beijing, largely speaking, this, as I said, the China engagement bit is quite vital, because the two countries have always been seen as, quote, all-weather cooperative strategic allies. Ananya?
All right, diplomacy seems to be taking center stage, not just in Goa, India, but also in Islamabad. We will be tracking all those developments closely. Thank you for all those updates. Anas Malik joining us live from Islamabad, and of course Siddhant Sibul joining us live from Goa. Thank you.